Hi everyone, Noor Tagore here, and you're listening to In Progress, an imperfect journey navigated. And this podcast is presented by Girl Boss Radio in partnership with Toomey. So, over the course of 10 episodes, we will be going on a journey together. We'll be deep diving with the best and the brightest female founders, entrepreneurs, and creatives out there, and offering you the motivation you need to transition from where you are to where you want to be. These brilliant women, and I mean brilliant, will be dishing out real-world advice for self-development on the go, so you can dare to change direction, and so you can live a more fulfilling and productive life. You know, the life you deserve. Let's go. Today, we are talking about how to transition into a purposeful life. So basically, what does that mean? You have a dream and an end goal. Now what? So this episode is pretty much a crash course in the do's and don'ts of transitioning from the life you have to the life you want, and avoiding as much mess as possible. Today, we are speaking to an amazing guest. Her name is Cassandra Gray, and she is the founder of Violet Grey, which is pretty much the Rotten Tomatoes of beauty. Now, Cassandra once had a marketing consulting business and wrote the business plan for Violet Grey while she was still in her old role. And it was quite a journey before she jumped into doing this full time. So I want to welcome Cassandra on the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And take us back to when you had the marketing consulting business. Where was your head and your heart at the time?
I wanted to start a company, since I'm 20, and was constantly dreaming and scheming up ideas and, thinking. And when I was dreaming, I was mostly dreaming about a team of people that were executing something that I wanted to build. That was the dream. And I worked before sort of getting into entrepreneurship or working for myself, I worked as a waitress, as a barista. I was a manager of a children's clothing store. So I had a lot of work experience with bosses before I started my own consultancy. And I think, consultancy is seems like a big word. I didn't think I had a career and I was, pursuing my career. I thought I know something about marketing for whatever reason, and I like to study human behavior, and I like to collect people. And so I had this sort of corral of influencers that I parlayed into helping companies attract and associate with those people or that community or that culture.
When was the first moment when you realized you needed to make a transition in your career?
I think the first... I always knew that I wanted to start a company, and that was my dream, and I always knew that I wanted to pursue my dream. So I think when I first knew that I was going to do it was when I was ready to make that commitment. I knew that starting a company was really hard, just being around lots of companies, and that once you start, and particularly if you're, taking in investors and spending other people's money, it is nonstop. And I think the common thread with successful companies is an obsessive founder. So I sort of wasn't ever really, I didn't feel ready to do that until I was 30. But I think what gave me the drive or the guts to actually start something is the vision for Violet Grey. So I think everything great starts with a vision and a dream. It's Biggie Smalls, it was all a dream. That's where it starts. And I think that in order to attract the kind of people that I wanted to get to work with, I knew that it was about art. I knew that it was about a vision and a dream world that people would want to be a part of. So it really, and it started with me. So for me to make that kind of commitment and completely change my life, I had to get really excited about what I wanted to build.
And how important do you think that was in giving you the drive you needed to build this? How important is it for other people to find something that they're just so passionate about to give them the drive to take that jump?
I mean, I think for me, it all starts with inspiration. So I think that, I'm a big vision board person. And
my gosh, yes, same.
Yeah. And so like to me, everything good that I've wanted to do, whether it was like, redesign my bathroom or start a company or, I don't know, get the dream body I ever wanted. It always started with a mood board of images and language and, telling a story through visual assets that would help me get there. Because if it's not real, like how can I articulate what I want it to be? And how can I do that with other people that I need to be able to build what I want to build? And once you do it, like once you build a brand book or a mood board or a business plan, I mean, if you're not really excited to build whatever it is that you sat down to map out on paper, then you can't, then it's not a good idea for you.
When people ask you to describe Violet Grey, how do you do so?
I mean, I think about Violet Grey as like a band of editors and experts in the beauty industry or entertainment industry that curate beauty products across all categories. So I think like the future of sort of shopping is about curation and not like contributing to the noise. And I think starting Violet Grey and thinking about, okay, what problem are we going to solve for customers? And the problem that I saw as a customer was that there was just way too much to choose from. And, the beauty is such a broad word and space. So it's really to me about the self-esteem and sort of living the best version of yourself or living your best life is, I guess, what they say. So yeah, I mean, I think we describe it as, we're very much in the service business and we're very much about curating for our customers. And we think about everything we do with the sort of box of like, does this strengthen our relationship with our customers? Does this garner his loyalty?
So did you solidify the idea when you identified the problem you felt you were having and wanted to become the solution?
So the idea for Violet Grey, I mean, I usually give credit to Net-a-Porter. So like at the time when I was writing the business model, I was just writing business models. Like I was just like, what's a good business? And I was reading something about Net-a-Porter and it was something about like combining two addictive activities, like perusing a magazine and shopping. And I thought, that's cool. And I was, really interested in technology and obviously digital businesses because that was sort of seemingly the future, like that was catching on. So, at the time, there was nothing like Net-a-Porter in the beauty industry. And as a beauty consumer, I found that, I thought that the process of like going to the store or reading something in a magazine or hearing something from your trusted best friend or whatever, and then having to go to the store and wait in line and, all that stuff just felt like a problem we could solve with the internet.
Did you eventually feel like this was becoming your purpose?
My purpose has always been innately to create. So I need to create. Like if I'm not being creative, if I'm not learning, if I'm not building, if I'm not feeling vulnerable or scared or challenged, I'm not creating. And then I just feel like I'm living like an authentic life.
All right, guys, quick break for an important announcement. This podcast is brought to you in partnership with our friends at Tumi. And if you're thinking right now that Tumi is essentially synonymous with luggage for effortlessly chic jet setters, you're absolutely correct, my friend. But here's something you can add to that mental association. Elegant, timeless handbags that bring the same level of sophistication to your everyday life. Obviously, our journeys are always a work in progress, and while we can't have our act together 100% of the time, we can certainly carry around a bag that makes us look like we do. Whether you're looking to pick up a gorgeous new bag in the softest of leathers or a nylon number that's as adaptable as you are, you can check them out at www.tumi.com. And let's start seeing some of the pics of that new on Instagram. Yeah? What advice would you give somebody who's making a big transition in their life in terms of career?
I mean, I think what you're talking about is like having purpose, or if you're lucky enough to know what you are meant to do or what drives you or makes you feel honest or alive, then it's about, pursuing that. And it's, and the only thing that really can hold you back is fear. And I think I certainly experienced a lot of fear. And I always think about, I wrote this down for you. Whenever I'm thinking about doing something and I feel like I can't do it because I'm scared that I'll fail, or if everyone is like, you can't do that, or if I fell flat on my face trying to do something, I always think about this Man in the Arena by Roosevelt. I'm going to read it for you. Because it's like it every time I feel like I'm, worthless and a failure or going to fail or there's no way I can do this, I read this. And my late husband gave it to me like printed on a card that I keep in my wallet, and I just find it so useful. So I'm going to read it for you. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of the high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat.
That was amazing. That's so good. What about that makes you feel comfort in those moments?
I just feel like just imagining, I guess ego, like imagining your life, like not going after what you want just seems like pathetic, like so much worse than failing.
That I'm like still thinking about from my own personal experience, and even just recently have struggled with, people always have something to say and always have something to criticize, and you never think about the fact that that's not what matters, but the fact that you're in the arena doing the work is what matters.
Yeah. And I'm not saying like don't be prepared. I think like you can like jump off a cliff and you might survive, but if you like pack a parachute, like the odds are better. So I think it's, the
odds are in your favor.
The odds are in your favor. I also think that, don't be afraid to ask for help. All the companies or all the people doing cool things that I've seen usually always have had a mentor or even like a village of mentors. And I think oftentimes like if you're vulnerable or you have doubt or, you're just not confident because you feel like you don't know what you're doing. I mean, the fact is that most entrepreneurs don't know what they're doing. And usually they're trying to go down uncharted waters. And so when you talk to other entrepreneurs or people that could help you, like they respond to that, like just being transparent, like I don't know what I'm doing, but I want to do this and I need your help.
Was that easy for you though? Because oftentimes there's like a misconception that you look weak when you ask for help, and the reality is you can't get anywhere without help or being able to ask for help or mentorship or at least maximizing on your potential. Was that hard for you at first?
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to the importance of vision again and being able to articulate that vision, whether it's in words or in a book. I think that if you are really passionate about what you want to do, and that shows in your body language and in your words and in whatever, presentation materials that you're sharing with whoever you're asking for help from, it's very rare that someone doesn't want to help you. So it's about passion and drive and being able to articulate that.
In a sense, I think that there's also an aspect of humility there.
Yes.
Because you have to kind of squander that pride and ego that makes you feel like you can't go and ask for that.
Yeah, and you're like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Can you please help me? And oftentimes people that have built things know how to help you. And now being one of those people that's gone through, wartime, early stage, building a company life, wartime, first-time CEO, founder. I mean, I've been through it all. And if somebody comes to me and asks me how I would deal with this problem, I usually know the answer in this particular area of like the first 5 years of building a company. I don't know all the answers, but I know a lot about that. And I know it because I made a lot of mistakes. So it's like fun for me and fulfilling for me to be able to share that.
What was the biggest challenge for you in starting over that way?
I had a lot of support. And so I was raising money for a couple of years, sort of like slowly. I was trying to raise money for a couple of years and wasn't really able to raise money around the business plan until year 2 of trying. So I would say the biggest challenges were raising money to be able to do it. I mean, I think all of that time of visualizing what I wanted and like building out business models and really studying what I wanted to do, I had the luxury of being able to have the time to do that. I think that would be a part of starting the business, but I didn't really feel like I was building until I raised a seed round of funding and hired my first employees.
You mentioned something earlier that was really interesting, and it was the fact that you recently hired your own CEO. So you hired yourself a boss.
I did. So yeah, I mean, we could talk about that transition too.
What made you decide to do that?
Well, I tried to do it for a few years because I was a first-time CEO and founder, and the company was growing, and it was getting much more sophisticated than my skill set in the categories of finance and operations and supply chain and all the mechanics that make the magic possible. And I needed help. I was incredibly stressed and could not sleep at night, and so I really wanted somebody who knew what they were doing to come in and run the company. And it was really hard for me to let someone do that and trust someone to do that. So my first 2 hires, I really think, I didn't give them the opportunity to really lead. And this time, it's been about a year, and my CEO, April Uchitel, is just phenomenal, and she's my boss, and she's tough. And I let her do that, I guess, because it's how I'm going to be able to scale the company.
I mean, that takes a lot of self-actualization and understanding that there is something bigger at play here, which is your company and the message that you're bringing along and the brand that you're bringing along. What kind of advice would you give to people about just really being able to look in the mirror and say, this is my skill set, this is what I'm good at, let me learn how to delegate and let me learn how to do what's best for my brand or my mission so that we can grow together?
Well, I think it starts with having faith. And the biggest benefit to having faith is, once you do it, as hard as it is, even if you're on the verge of, bankruptcy, you're doing it. And you're literally living your dream. So when people ask you how you're doing, you're like, hey, I'm living the dream. And it's real. So whatever phase you're in, as hard as it is, you're doing it.
All right, before we go, can you offer us 3 tips for women who are considering making a huge career or life transition of their own?
Okay, so kind of to wrap this up, I think 1 is think big and get big. Dream big and learn how to articulate your dream in a way that inspires people to help you or join you, because you're going to need people. And 2 is, if you haven't saved money, write a business plan and get an angel investor, because you're going to need money. And 3 is be prepared to work hard and follow through on all the little things, because it's all the little things that make the big things happen.
I love that.
And then it's like, just don't give up no matter what. Don't give up no matter what.
That's just like a reminder
As they
3
say
times.
in Alcoholics Anonymous. Don't drink or use drugs no matter what.
No matter what. That's the perfect way to wrap this episode. Thank you so much, and we will see you next episode. For more information on Cassandra Gray and her company Violet Gray, check her out on Instagram at Cassandra Gray, and that's Gray, Grey, and Violet Gray, and on Twitter at Violet Gray. And you can visit their website at, you guessed it, violetgray.com.